Hey, Facebook fam, Instagram, YouTube, Kimmy Smooth fam. This is Kim coming to you again with Bitch Chronicles. And again, Bitch Chronicles stand for Black women in this country hurting. This is dedicated to everything that we as women face in this country. And I'm coming to you, based on some recent events that are taking place. And one of them is watching Pam Bondi in the House hearings and them talking about the Epstein files. And it's horrific when you listen to the stories of these rich, powerful, old men, old white men, abusing these young girls. But the thing for us is this isn't something new for Black women. We know this has been going on. There's been no accountability for the flight that our ancestors had. And when I say our ancestors had, I mean our ancestors during slavery, when they reached the shores of this America. It's really heartbreaking, to hear about the stories that took place with these girls. But this is this country. This is what this country was built on. It was built on rape. It was built on murder. It was built on pillage. It was built on pedophilia. And, it's not something new. You can go back to how people try to romanticize the situation that occurred with Thomas Jefferson, which was a founding father, and Sally Hemings. Sally Hemings was a young teenage girl. Do you honestly think that she was consenting for this man, her master, to have sex with her as a child? That's the legacy of this country, though. When you think about it, it's not just Sally. It wasn't just Sally. There's a story about a slave named Celia. Celia was continuously raped by her master since the time he bought her in a little bit before 1855. But she was continuously raped, and eventually she killed him in self-defense. And while she was in jail, she was pregnant by her master. She gave birth to a stillborn baby. She acknowledged that he had been raping her since she was 14. And none of that mattered because back then, your body wasn't your body. And her body definitely wasn't her body because they ended up executing her in December of 1855. Black women or black men, it didn't matter. Black men were raped as well. You had no autonomy over your body. Your body wasn't your body. Your body belonged to the white men of this country. And don't get it twisted now. It wasn't just white men that owned slaves. There were white women as well who were slave owners. Some of them may have inherited them from their father who passed away or their husband who died, but they owned them as well. And these people were made to live these horrible lives under slavery and slavery's rules. There was nothing to save them or help them. Nothing. And the worst part is that they suffered all of this and it got even worse, especially when slavery, when they made it where they couldn't go get slaves through the transatlantic slave trade. That was around 1808 when they stopped slavers from being able to go over to Africa and pick up more slaves. So what they in turn turned around and did was started breeding. They would breed slaves with other slaves across plantations. Within the plantation, they would often breed slaves to incest, where they would make them have sex with each other Stories have been said that they made them put paper bags over their heads and they would make them have sex with each other so they could produce more slaves, so they could become richer and wealthier. And not only did they breed them, but then there were some masters who impregnated their slaves so they could take those babies that they helped bring into the world and make them slaves. I say that to say that this isn't something new for Black people in America. This isn't something new for Black women in America. It also helps white America understand the reason why we have different shades as a people, Black people, because our melanin was slightly altered each time there was an interaction with a white person. So as we move forward, into this discussion, after we got through with the slave trade, and in many cases, Black women were looked down on. They had to keep their hair covered, and in some cases where these women were being raped, they were labeled as Jezebels. Like they had a choice in the matter of being raped. These were their masters. These were the ones who could change and alter and kill them. They had complete control over their lives. But because this woman's being raped and you're upset because your husband chooses to sleep with a slave, that slave woman has to be a Jezebel. Make that make sense. It doesn't. Then we move a little further. We think about after we came out of slavery. There are so many stories of Black women that were raped by white men. One very well-known story is that of Reese Taylor, who was raped and nothing ever really occurred. And a lot of people don't know that whole story is one of the things that Rosa Parks was working on right during the time of the bus boycott. Then we look at, the Me Too movement started by Tarana Burke. That was hijacked. The Me Too movement was about Black girls, Black women who had had sexual situations. And when I say situations, I mean rape, incest, molestation. She started Me Too, a Black woman. And then that got hijacked. It became about other women as victims. And it moved away from us, Black women. But the whole Epstein situation is all over the media. It's all over the world. But nobody's talking about what happened to us, our ancestors, who had no say in the rape and the breeding and all of that. And then we think about they're wanting these files to expose these rich, powerful white men who they say raped thousands of young girls. You think about it, I'm going to take you back a little bit to enslaved women. They were between the ages of 15 and 30 and even younger depending on when they started to have their monthly. They were made to have sex. They were made to make babies. Something to think about. Something to truly, truly think about. Truly, truly think about. But let's move forward to here where we are now with the Epstein files and them trying to safeguard these rich, white, powerful men. Something they've done all the time because they'll surely safeguard these founding fathers who owned slaves. Founding fathers who no doubt raped slaves. This is something that's been going on, a cover up in this country forever. So this isn't something new. But you think about rich and powerful men covering up for these rich and powerful men. But R. Kelly serving time for the same thing pretty much. Bill Cosby Puffy, Sean, P. Diddy, Puffy Combs. But again, we have no power. So they are, or they were, or they did get what the justice system felt those black men needed to get. This country is so different because there was a time when we knew they didn't care about us. We knew they didn't care what happened with us, but now they're showing their true colors because now we're living in a country full of narcissists, complete, insane narcissists who could give two issues about anyone. But what's really, really, really sad is that there's no one here to save us. And when I say save us, I mean save us in the sense of morality. Because this country was built on a facade. And it's all coming out. Black folks have always been the moral compass of this country. And we've chosen